Ladies and gentlemen, welcome and good evening to the season finale of the Sunday GT Masters. My name is Hasse Rømer, joined by the brilliant Edward May for the final, indeed, and decisive round of action from a series that's been entertaining from start to finish. And what better track I would be able to come up with anything, I think, better for a season finale than here at Spa. Certainly a stage for grand drama indeed. And Edward, it's been a long season by now. It's lasted us throughout the year. What's your expectations coming into the final round tonight?
Yeah, thank you very much, Hasse. It is, like you said, the season's swan song here at Spa. But look at that, the sun is setting and we've got some absolutely stunning shots of the man who is in the driver's seat for the title, Charlie Lund Nielsen, in his debut for the Sunday GT Masters. He impressed at Interlagos with a strong podium, and from then he's just gotten quicker and quicker. I think he's probably one of the drivers that everyone will have their eyes on coming into this final round. He had a slight hiccup at Daytona, but now is the time for him to set things right and try and secure his first title.
Indeed, and I mean, he would have loved to put it all in the bag 2 weeks ago at Daytona, I'm quite sure. For all of us neutral bystanders, onlookers, and commentators indeed, it's made all the more exciting by the fact that it will be going into the final round. And I'll just fetch up the standings and we'll go through it just shortly indeed as we are. And then the final few minutes of practice here will be true to form. 15 minutes of qualifying followed by a 45-minute race, of course, with 50% fuel in the tanks. But that means, of course, 30 minutes of runtime, which I think is what might have confused me the slightest bit. So it happens. But as I mentioned, having a look at the standings coming into this one. In the Pro, Charlie Lund Nielsen with 364 points. That's 22 points clear of Remco Barlow. Nicolas Cucato is third, ahead of Gaston Maceroni. I think so far, at least, it looks like those two aren't going to be present. I think I might have a sneaking suspicion why, but we'll get into that in a moment. Patrick Gannon coming into this one, fifth in the standings, ahead of Pete Plastow, Martin de Jong, Matthew Terry, Matthew Forrest, and Matt Sissler. So a treble Matt there, 8th, 9th, and 10th in the overall standings. But all eyes, of course, in the Pro class will be resting on that battle between Remco Barlow and Charlie Lund Nielsen. In AM, it's Alfredo Tricarici, who has it in the bag by now, but he's here in racing regardless, which I kind of like. And he's that we'll get to in a moment as well, by the way. Ari Sherwood second, but Matt Maddox tied on points. So that battle for second place certainly live in AM as well there. Darren Fellows managed to scrape enough points together in his run in the league that he's still sitting in fourth place, ahead of Chris Pio, Stephen Orrell, Baron Glover, Tony van der Linden, and Andy Spicer and Robert van den Heuvel in 10th. So Edward, just having gone over the points tally here, through practice, it's looking very good for Charlie Lund Nielsen indeed. But do you think he'll be strong enough to get the best of everyone here tonight?
No one can handle.
You would imagine so. I mean, look at the times he's been putting in now. They are looking mighty fast. Half a second quicker than Remco Barlow, and he's going even quicker actually on this lap of practice. Just getting in those quali times this is basically the closest to those conditions as we're going to get, with just 4 minutes to go before they all have to be set out on their way. Look at that, dipping into the 15s, almost 15.93, 6 tenths quicker than Remco Barlow. So a very impressive lap from Charlie Nielsen, a real statement of intent. However, the slipstream is super strong here at Spa. So while you might be able to set those laps by yourself, when you've got everyone around you, you'll probably be dragging everyone along right up to your rear end, especially coming down the Kemmel Straight. It's so long here at Spa. It's a defining characteristic of how the cars race. And I would imagine that Charlie Nelson will need to put in laps like that every single lap of this 45-minute race that will be coming up after the qualifying session.
Yeah, that's true, but on the other hand, I think we've seen it a lot of time as well, that if someone, especially that leading car, often finds itself in a situation where as soon as a battle sort of develops in behind, as soon as someone goes too wide through any corner, basically, that's your chance to sort of break that slipstream gap and hopefully arrive at the next straight with just about enough that you can stay out of the slipstream range. Indeed, as Matthew Forrest and Pete Plastow is having a little bit of a practice tangle there. Coming into the comp. Another gentleman we're expecting something from tonight is Martin de Jong. And in AM, sorry, I was just gonna say in AM here, Chris Pio having set a very fine time so far in practice, and it'll be interesting to see if he can translate that sort of pace into qualifying. It's gonna happen in just a few moments' time here. Late afternoon, on December 4th here at Spa, so track temp at 19 degrees. I'll tell you, it wouldn't have been that hot in real life. That's just an iRacing kind of a buggy thing. But going into the dusky hours, indeed, Edward, do you think that's going to change the complexion of the race in any way?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as well, it's just a different mindset almost racing in the dark. It's not as visually clear where your braking markers might be, where you have to turn in. The apexes can almost surprise you and jump you all of a sudden. You need to have a really good feel for the car, but also the track. Those hours of practice that go into endurance races, a majority of them actually put in for the drivers during the dark, just to get them really acclimatized to them, to those sorts of conditions. Because I mean, even here at Spa as well, with the elevation, it can be tricky for the headlights to really illuminate all of the little markers and reference points that the drivers use while going through a lap.
Final minute of practice. So a few of the drivers on to their final laps of practice indeed. The two virtual racing compound Ferraris here. Yeah, a pretty fine job. Sort of surprised to see, look at this, Edward, one of them having the number pinned in the windscreen and the other one having it on the side there. Is this cannot be two different versions of the Ferrari, I'm thinking. They'd be clear enough. I don't own this car, so I wouldn't know if it's a setting that you can actually adjust on it as Pete Plastow goes around, I'm afraid.
I was just going to say, it's, I think, down to the decals that they have on the iRacing paint underlying. If you've got a IMSA decal, then you get the numbers on the side.
Oh, Martin de Jong. Found Pete Plastow, and we have... I don't have my wheel connected, and my mute button is on my wheel, and I'd have to somehow go into the iRacing menus and fix it. So we'll be having uncensored a direct line to the driver's chat. Oh, that will be pretty interesting. Usually we turn that off, Edward. I figured, you know what, we might as well just leave it on. Cars flowing out the pits here. And as always, it's a bit of a battle for track position in qualifying. One of the finest blimp cams. Although the trees, the rows of 2D trees, I mean, maybe could look a bit better from the sky. Of course, this isn't what it's not where it's supposed to look great. It's maybe where iRacing is beginning to have its moments of showing its age. So they don't feel it when it's in the sim. And the gentleman who's certainly made a mark on this season, Charlie Lund Nielsen, the super Swede. And we've had a high level of top competition throughout the season, Edward, but Charlie Lund Nielsen, it has to be said, has just been that slight tad above everyone else in terms of speed and consistency alike, and he's in pole position for this race. But we also did see at Daytona that it really doesn't take a lot to throw a spanner in the works of someone, and it's gonna be the pressure's gonna be on regardless. And even though it's always nice having a points lead coming into a race like this, there is also like you have a bit more on the line when being in pole position for an event like this. Someone's gone around behind, I'm afraid. That might just be Chris P.O., and it actually is. Let's see what happened to him here.
You got Matt Maddox in towards the bus stop chicane, lining up for a lap here. You can see stabbing on the brakes to really hook the car in, cut the power nice and early for the run down into La Source. Car in careful on the exit. There's a little divot, as you saw in the exit, that can unsettle the cars, but gets nicely onto the power, and then you go through the depression at the hill at Eau Rouge, and the rise through Radion, flat out through here, turning nice and early throughout Radion. Most of the time it is flat out in these cars. There's a slight lift as a bit of uncertainty crept into Matt Maddox. Into Lecon, hard on the brakes as you get to the curb on the outside, get over the curb nicely on the inside, and take a few liberties with track limits here, especially on the exit of this corner. The car just doesn't want to respond for Matt at the moment. We even harder down into Roussel. Hug it tight, get on the power early, through Speaker's corner. Again, just carry it through, trying to bring the momentum all the way around. It's one that you do have to turn in slightly early for, but again, track limits, you can extend slightly through here. Then when you get onto this one, down through Puan, turn in early. It's again, it's all about the momentum through the corners. You've got to be brave through here. You're on the ragged edge of the rear end, just breaking away. The Fania chicane again. Really just try and open up that left-hander if you can to the momentum coming through. Matt Maddox slightly shy of the apex. And through here, if you get this first part right through Campus and then through Stavolo, it is completely flat out. You can hear the tyres squealing in anger and anguish as Matt barely hangs on. It's a nice, healthy slipstream from the Ferrari up in front as well. I think that may be Chris Pio, the Apex Tech car. Either that or Andy Spicer, one of the two. Hard onto the brakes now, Matt. Careful of the rear end. 107, or the 707 rather, of Chris Pio. And through bus stop chicane, coming up to the line, what will it be for the 120? Breaks the timing beam. It is provisional pole position, as he's the only driver to have set a lap so far. That's quickly bettered by Charlie Lund Nielsen, who sets a time that still would have been maybe about a few tenths off of his time in practice, but that was, I think, a couple of tenths faster, regardless of the lap set by Remco Barlow.
These first laps here, usually we'd say, it's mostly sort of an early banker. The track temps as low as they are, it's more about getting it just that slight bit more rubbered in, I think, throughout the session. That might make it that little bit quicker. Of course, everybody being used to being on the ragged edge on the qualifying setup. The lap coming in from Andy Spicer here. 2:18.17, 6/10 up on mathematics. So in the provisional AM lead, but a lot of cars out there still to set their opening lap times.
Just watching through all these laps here, Hasse, and the times coming through. Charlie Nilsson is the man to beat, and no one's really gotten close at this stage. Remco Barlow goes second fastest, but it's still not near that time of 16.220 from Charlie Lund Nilsson. That was a brilliant lap from the Swede. And the best Remco can do is to slot into second place quite comfortably as well, actually, as he has a 3/10 advantage over Pete Plastow. But I think if there is anywhere at Hasse where we will see bigger advantages in qualifying than we're used to seeing, it would be on a track like Spa, where the lap time is about 2 minutes long.
Yeah, of course. But at the same time, a lot of that is straight. So it is. But of course, on the other hand, it's also a track where you can make a massive difference if your car is set up to be poised just that little bit more throughout the long middle sector. Basically from the entrance of the Lecomte chicane to the exit of Stavelot. Oh, mathematics just getting wide there on the exit of Pouhon. Martin de Jong third fastest here. Matthew Forrest in with a quick lap as well. Quick to get to the edge of the 16s, not quite breaking into it. Very close though. Between Martin de Jong, Matthew Forrest and Pete Plastow, all within 1/10 of a second. Timothy van der Broek's iRacing crash, so that's well, of course not ideal. At the same time, Edward, could be worse. in terms of could have happened in the race, and that would have been it, basically.
You could have done. Oh, was Matt Forrest, I think, just checks up slightly there. The car was about to get away from him by the looks of things. I look at the sector times coming through as we follow Alfredo Chikorici. This is through campus. Yep, the rear just over-rotates a bit too eager on the throttle. A bit of a heavy hit into the wall as well. I've seen him come into the pits. Well, I know you were alluding to it earlier, Hasse, about the reason why a few drivers may be absent. I am very much surprised to see Alfredo Chikorici after Argentina's success in the World Cup final. And my word, what a final it was, Hasse. I don't know if you were tuning in, but I'll tell you what, it had everything. It was probably one of the best finals I've ever seen.
Yeah, definitely it was one of the better games of football in that comes to mind in general. It did indeed have it all, and a worthy winner, I think, at the end. When it comes to it.
I don't disagree with you there. I mean, we might get on a slight tangent here. We watch the times come through, but in that game it was absolutely something else. And to be fair, I was breathing a sigh of relief when I saw that England weren't lined up against Argentina when it came to the splitting of the groups into the knockout stages, because I expected they were a team that was going to be really strong. And of course, with all the emotion surrounding it, following the passing of the great Diego Maradona, and then also with it being Lionel Messi's final shot at a World Cup title, I think it was almost fated to be, wasn't it?
It would have been. It's a bit of a fairy tale ending to it, and I think a movie scripter couldn't have done it much better for the finale as well. A long match as well, ultimate drama at the end.
Yeah.
But anyways, you can understand that some of the Argentines are out having a bit of a ball, I think, for themselves.
I've seen some of the things circulating around Twitter, and I mean, Buenos Aires is just a massive street party at the moment. But it's an absolute joy to see. But I am, like you say, very surprised to see that Alfredo Chikorici is joining, but very glad to see him as well, actually. He's been a real standout performer in the AM class all season long. He's not quite got the pace, but maybe I think his nerves are fried and jangled, and he's just quite happy to be out on track without crashing.
Yeah, and he's also in a position where his title is actually in the bag as well. I don't think that anyone of the following drivers in the AM class title race will be able to catch up to him regardless. So it's a celebratory drive in more than one respect for Alfredo Chikarici tonight, who can drive sort of without any sort of pressure really, and just enjoy the race for what it is. Certainly nice to do as well sometimes. Timothy Fennerbrook still has yet to do his first lap here, Edward. He did have his iRacing crash on him. Just one of the heavier tracks to load in. Does take a little while. Still 3 minutes on the clock, so he will have the time for one more lap. The stage run racing BMW.
I was going to say, I thought he might have just run slightly wide there and got himself an off track. That was about as close as you can get. Unfortunately, it was just slightly over the limits. So comes into the pits, and if he wants to go out for one final attempt, it will have to be now or never. I think he might just make it if he was to. Go on board with Martin de Jong. Currently sits third. Look at that. That's a beautiful line, isn't it? Up through Radion. Going towards Lecoum. It's so tricky to get the braking point right. I tend to brake. You see a little low sort of boards. I tend to brake just at the curb as soon as it starts on that left-hand side and pitch in just quickly. Try and get over to the left-hand side as much as you can to really open up this right-hander. Again, just really razzing it over the curb on the exits where you can take so much time, as we see Charlie Lund-Nilsson.
Oh my word.
Go even quicker into the 15s. 15.742. Brilliant lap time there from the Swede. As we follow Martin de Jong on board into Puon. If you look on the right hand side, there's a little orange mark just about there. That's sort of at least my area for trying to brake and turn in. Carry it through. Again, as you come underneath the bridge here, you want to start trailing the brakes and getting to coast the car in. I'll get nice and tight, get a wheel over onto the curb if you can, and turn in nice and late for this corner to really open up the apex and carry plenty of momentum through in towards campus, which you can really get over the curbs onto, carry the speed, because you can use a lot of that off track, which Martin de Jong is doing. And using that wider line opens out Stavolo to keep it flat. It's important to get such a good run through Stavolo because you've got this long run all the way up through Blanchemont, which again, you keep absolutely pinned to the floor, glide the car through any sharp sting and puts unsettles it and not only loses you time but eventually loses you control of the car. And then down here, it's pretty much just purely down to feel where you brake and how hard you brake. Martin de Jong has got a very nice line through there, just slightly unsettled over the curb, which doesn't allow him to get on the power as early as he wants to. As he breaks the timing beam, what will it be? That looked like a decent lap time from Martin de Jong. It's an improvement, but not in terms of his position, only his time. He stays third fastest.
Yeah, that lap from Charlie Lund-Nilsson, though, was second quicker than Remco Barlow in second. And they must be scratching their heads throughout the field, trying to figure out what the hell to do. Oh, and Remco Barlow blows it on the final lap as well. So I think it's going to be Charlie Lund-Nilsson on pole. And Pete Plastow is going to improve. He's going to have to improve by half a second, basically, on this final flying lap. I think he will just about have made it onto it. Ivo Fender Linden as well on a flying one. It's Matthew Terry. The question is, did he make it? Not quite sure.
Love the sound of that Mercedes.
Oh yeah. It's a real grunt. Someone stopped on there. I think that was Timothy Fender Brook. Ivo Fender Linden might have gotten into 1X territory. I think the same might have happened to Pete Plastow. Drivers are finding these track limits who, let's be honest, they did get more lenient at, what is that, a year and a half ago, something like that. But I remember them being strict back in the days on iRacing. And in a few of the corners here, they have been opened up, allowing cars to take what drivers tended to be allowed to take in real life as well, in terms of those apron areas at the side of the curb. And just how much you can extend. Here's Matthew Terry, and the Porsche 911 comes around, and Spicers improved upon his quick lap. He will be on pole position in AM. And I don't think I saw that pop in from Matthew Terry there. But anyway, Edward, we are about ready to have a look at the grid, the starting order for this final round indeed. We shall just cue the music and and just wait for the sim to load up the grid, and we'll have it on our screens in a short matter of time indeed. Or hopefully so. It seems to be a little different in just how long it takes iRacing to skip over and up into the next one. But indeed, Charlie Lund Nielsen, that second, Edward, is, and of course, we do sometimes see it a bit different on qualifying fuel and all, but second in qualifying is going to be difficult to do anything about for everyone here.
Yeah, good luck everybody, and have fun.
It will be incredibly hard, like you say, to try and overcome that amount of deficit.
Let's keep
Charlie Nielsen finds himself in the perfect position
to stay as close as possible
to go through and secure his championship. Remco Barlow, though, he's good at sticking with someone.
I thought I had to go bowling today,
just
so I
piling the pressure on them. Charlie's driver, we've rarely seen make a mistake, but obviously he was caught up in a little bit of a moment in Daytona. Not even necessarily his fault, but was still caught up in an instant regardless. And that could be weighing on his mind as they come in towards turn one, which is a real hot zone, isn't it, when you think about it in terms of accidents?
Yeah, it is, and definitely so.
Good luck, all.
We've seen it so many times, and even the Camel Straight, that kink, Edward, a lot of drivers, I think, have a strange memory and seem to remember it going straight there, which it very much doesn't. And we will see just how it plays out as we have the cars aligned on the grid. The short run down to the start-finish straight here. It'll be just a few moments before we have the green flags for 45 minutes of racing here for the season finale of the Sunday GT Masters. Was brought to you by Advanced Sim Racing here on Virtual Racing Compound. Charlie Lund Nielsen in that Audi R8. He's got 22 points. Of course, mind you, it's 50 points for a win. It's 44 for second. I'm not completely mistaken. And 30 for third. So first and second quite close there. And then it's actually a sizable gap. But for Charlie Lund Nielsen, he doesn't have to win. Sort of has to finish on the podium to make sure that that he'll finish on top at the end of it anyways. It'll be green, green, green for now, as they're all underway. A slight split in the field, and some of them will be happy about that, I'm sure. A slight move from what I think was Pete Plesto up the inside, and someone goes, oh, Edward, that's the 2 Ferraris.
The teammates.
Yeah. Oh, and they're not gonna be too happy about that, I'm afraid. Let's have another look here, Edward. Just what happened? Oh, that was Matthew Terry.
Oh, and that was just, I think that was the 78 of Matthew Forrest that got a little bit unsteady on the exit of the corner. Has a massive snap of oversteer. Slides to slam onto the brakes to avoid making contact, but unfortunately it was always inevitable being that close together. Teammate was just in the wrong place at the wrong time, as already Remco Barlow has gotten the jump and into the lead around the outside against Charlie Nilsson.
And that is a massive move here from the start of the race, pretty much. Looks like they must have been side by side for a fairly long time. We're gonna have a second look at it here. Oh, and Martin de Jong is dropping down the order as well. It's around the outside.
My bad, I touched the grass and the fucking tire.
Oh, Chris Pio's way into the wall here, I'm afraid. There's been bad luck for a few drivers here. Stephen Orrell
involved as well, I believe.
Ooh, that's a hard one. It was at the start of lap 1. Cody Steeg, you said it, Edward. He's had a moment too here. I think he mentioned it. We heard it. Oh, as his tires touched the something grass. And that did indeed happen.
Yeah, it did. Not a pretty incident. That's not so good as well for... I'm not sure who that was he had a collision with. Was that potentially Alfredo Tricarici? It looked like a BMW. You can see that Tricarici, who has already secured the AM Championship, is out of the running. So it looks like that may have been the driver involved in the incident. Someone coming into the pits already.
It's Matt Maddox.
Chris Pio follows him through as well.
What's happened here to Martin de Jong? Oh, he's got to slow down, I think. Going terribly slowly. Started in 3rd place, mind you. It's been an uphill battle for him. Now here Matthew Forrest. It's on the comeback, making his move on Andy Spicer. Now on the tail of Martin de Jong for 6th place. Up ahead though, still Remco Barlow with Charlie Nilsson. And Charlie knows that basically he can just shadow Remco Barlow around. And it'll be no problem. And certainly, Edward, there wouldn't be any real reason for Charlie Nilsson at least to go on any sort of heavy offensive here. He's got a lot more to lose than he's got to gain from pressing Remco Barlow, who only stands to gain 6 points out of a gap of 22 for Charlie Nilsson, and I'm quite sure he'll be more than aware of that fact.
Oh yeah, 100%. But as well, Remco Barlow is aware of the fact that he could do something to put Charlie Nilsson in a bit of bother if, say, he realises that Charlie is not looking for the overtake. Remco could just back his pace off just a touch and allow, I don't know, potentially Ivo van der Linden or Matthew Terry to get in the picture. Maybe start squabbling for that 2nd place and behind him. And I mean, that's probably his best shot of not only winning this race, but winning the championship here tonight.
Oh. Pete Plesto having a tough old time, sorry, I'm afraid, tonight. Martin de Jong's gone past on Timothy van der Broek here. But momentarily, or did he? Oh, almost lost it. Just about kept it under control. Oh, and there's a bit of a close one here, Edward. Timothy van der Broek on the inside of Martin de Jong. Up into Lecombe. He's going to make sure that it's going to stick, indeed. The 71 on the 79.
Lovely little move that. Always nice, isn't it, when you see moves being made in that sort of section, because the corner moves one way, then the other, then back again. It means that you always have to leave space to another driver and gives us those exciting little moments when we see them side by side and properly giving us a show. In other areas, of course, into the final chicane, but coming through Pouhon, does sometimes separate out those drivers that are nose to tail. Surprisingly enough, Remco Barlow is deciding not to try and back Charlie Nilsson into van der Linden or any sort of squabble back there for third place. A pair of them are streaking off away, and Charlie Nilsson is closing rapidly to the rear end of that BMW. Lifts off slightly as they come towards Blanchimont and then into the bus stop. They continue to remain Remco Barlow first and Charlie Nilsson second as we start the fourth lap of this race.
And Charlie Nilsson there with a 16.8 as well, so fastest lap so far. Able to just stretch the legs of the Audi in the slipstream of the BMW ahead. Let's see, he's very close this time around as the lights are coming on. The sun is setting, not only on the race but on the season as well. And now we might just see the move from Charlie Nilsson's got such a good run here. He's up the inside on the Kemmel Straight. That BMW is fast though. Let's see the Audi on the brakes. I'm expecting it to just dive up the inside, but Remco Barlow's holding on. And Charlie Nilsson takes the lead at the end of it, but look at Remco Barlow. He'll know he has the lead. Swings back, swings fourth. Or maybe it's the other way around. I think if you were really picking at it, it would be the other way around. But regardless, Edward, that was a brilliant move from Charlie Nilsson. Let's get a bad run here through speakers. Now it's Remco Barlow on the outside into Pouhon. Too wide here rarely goes well, and I think Remco understands this as well. But what a fight between these two.
Remco cannot afford to allow Charlie out of his sight. We've seen already the lap times are ballistic from that Audi around here. So if he wants any shot of winning this race, he needs to get up there and either get ahead of him coming down in towards that bus stop chicane, or stick with him close enough to have a run himself down the Kemmel Straight, because after that you would imagine that Audi, the speed it can carry through the corners, so much more than that BMW. Here we go though, closing down. He's going to have a slight lift before we come in towards Blanchimont, which keeps him from properly attacking in towards the bus stop chicane. As long as he's close enough coming through Rouge and Radion, he will have a real red hot go down into Les Combes. Already the gap half a second as we start lap 5. That car is just so quick on the trigger in terms of acceleration. Nothing goes like that Audi does just off the mark. It's brilliant.
Yeah, it's got the weight on the rear of the car, much more so at least than I think the BMW. We'll have that early traction coming out the corners, but the BMW with the straight line speed. Let's see if Remco Barlow can get close enough here. Just see the BMW now really beginning to stretch its legs. But he's not going to be close enough, Edward. It's going to be a lunge and a half from back there, and he realizes that. He's going to hold off. Now into a section of the track where you would expect the Audi to, well, sort of be quicker, but also it's always with the Audi a little bit more at a risk when you're really pushing it. Doesn't seem to be an issue for Charlie Lund Nielsen. He mentioned at some point that he basically runs one setup for the entirety of the season, so it must be a pretty damn good baseline setup to run.
Well, I believe you will have had to have changed it recently, Hasse, because of the updates iRacing have brought out.
That's actually true, yeah. That would have required a bit of work on his part.
And I will say as well, actually, the most recent build, there have been murmurings and whisperings that the car to drive is the Audi.
Well, if so, we're certainly seeing it here tonight, and we've seen it. We've seen it before this season as well. Brilliant racing between the two leaders of the race. Now that Audi beginning to stretch its leg, Edward, it's 0.6 of a second this time around here.
I think a lot of it as well is not just the Audi, it's the person in the cockpit. Charlie Lund Nielsen is really attacking the corners. You can see just from that onboard shot we had with Remco Barlow, the lines that Charlie has taken are almost inch perfect every single time, and that just helps him to pick up that throttle nice and early, and also aids the excellent get up and go that Audi does have just through these low speed corners. We'll see it here. It just responds. It doesn't seem unsettled. It just does exactly what you want it to do.
A fine machine to whoever can control it, that is for sure, with the Audi. Now Timothy van der Broek has found the tail of Matthew Terry. They come into Eau Rouge and Radion. And a simple move into the comp there from Timothy van der Broek to take another position, and something you can really do, Edward, once you get in front, is to sort of take ownership of the corner and slow the car down to basically whatever you like in order to get it to turn. That's a major mistake by Van der Broek, though, and I don't think Matthew Terry is going to waste any time at least trying to get the better of Van der Broek. He's got the good run here on the exit. In the Porsche, it's not quite going to be enough, I think.
At this stage, I think we've seen a change of position, I believe, between Cody Steeg and I think Pete Plastow. He is trying to answer back, but there's a lot of damage to the front end of that Ferrari. At the outside there, if he can hang on, that'd be brilliant, but I would say that Mercedes just has a bit more grunt, and I think it'll sadly be a losing battle that Ferrari will have to fight until it gets repaired.
Maybe just managed to hold on for so long, or so far at least. Pete Plastow. What is the battle for 8th place? Martin de Jong has had a bit of a moment. It might have been a short off-track excursion down here. Let's see. Just taking too much on the exit there. No drama included with that one. Timothy van der Broek did a good job of breaking away from Matthew Terry over the course of this lap, after having a bit of a moment of his own. Up ahead, Charlie Lund Nielsen, almost a second now to Remco Barlow here. And it's true, Edward, we've spoken about it as well, but it's true that once that slipstream is broken, it's just it's going to be an uphill battle for anyone of the chasers to catch up to Charlie Lund Nielsen, who's setting purple times as well. Or at least did so on his last lap. It's a 16.9 as well. Oh. Wow. Good battle here as well, I think. Matthew Terry, Martin de Jong overshoots it, and Matthew Forrest here in a bit of a spot of bother. He had to slow down a lot. As Martin de Jong came back on the track there. Losing a bit of time as well in the process to Matthew Terry, who a bit of much needed space on his tail for once.
Hello, can you hear me?
Oh, yes, indeed.
Oh, hello. Yeah, my internet has just gone, which is ever so great. So I'm just trying to upload back into the session now. You can see just, I think, a few sporadic updates on the old timing software. So, of course, Charlie Nelson continues to lead. But how quick are his lap times, Hasse? Is he looking to be building that lap on lap?
Yes, indeed. His last lap time was a 2:16.85 with the best lap of a 2:16.82. Building with about 0.2 of a second. Slowly breaking the slipstream. Remco Barlow behind, then Ivo van der Linde. But he's about 5 seconds off of Barlow now, and then further back, of course, this fight here with Matthew Forrest and Martin de Jong. Martin de Jong, who's finding his rear mirrors full of that Ferrari of Matthew Forrest. Can't have taken too much damage at that first lap incident here. Edward, it's been going pretty decently so far for Matthew Forrest. Taken into consideration, it did seem to be a considerable touch to the right front.
Just going to try to wait till I get loaded back into the server. I'd imagine, though, we might be seeing the first round of pit stops soon, Hasse, do you think? Or would it be about another little while? I think the window will probably be open now, but maybe about 5 minutes.
Yeah, they'll want to stretch it to the halfway mark, but though, as you say that, we're seeing the first pit stop coming from Martin de Jong, so...
Oh, I've got a psychic connection to iRacing. It's almost like I know what's going on.
Yeah, you would expect so. But yeah, the pit window, as we can see, it is about open. You would expect these final 20... Is it even like 6 minutes to be well doable on what they can fuel on. Martin de Jong wants to get that over and done with. Andy Spicer is in a very good position in the M class at the moment. Leading Matt Maddox by 33 seconds. Now look at this gap. We're a 1.5 seconds between Charlie Lund Nielsen and Remco Barlow, so that's really grown. And Charlie Lund Nielsen as well. New fastest lap on that last lap of his here at 2:16.66.
Ferrari 63 does have, I was saying earlier, still some damage done to it. It's able to keep the Mercedes at bay. I think as well that's partly down to Cody Stick. I don't know if he's really too eager to properly go at it. He's already been in the wars once before on the opening lap, just through this corner. He himself actually is nursing a little bit down. It's just difficult to see though with those headlights. It obscures the front end of the Mercedes a little more than it does the Ferrari.
Yeah, and that's a good point that it does indeed. It's a bit hard to spot up, a bit harder to spot if there's any damage to the front end of the car. There are 216.3 on the last lap here from Charlie Lund Nielsen, who's now decided to, to really start hammering it in, and he's really opened up the gap here. See for how long he's stretching it. Maybe he was trying to make sure he was making his fuel marks, and then from this point he knows his good and he can now start to really open it up. The most important bit for him, Edward, is that he's now broken the slipstream down to Remco Barlow here, and it'll be a lot less stressful in regards of having constant attacks coming in from behind there.
You can just see how smooth his inputs are on the steering wheel. Just glides it through the corner. Just turns in with a minimum of fuss. He's got that car perfect balance where he wants to. This will be the big tell for how settled the car is. Just coming into P1. Glides it in, nice time on the throttle. From the on-board, from the inputs it's putting in, it looks almost pedestrian.
But the car looks so aggressively rotating as well. So he's really making the car work with him here, and it doesn't need all that input to stay precise. Of course, too much input on any machine is going to scrub off the speed as well, so this might be just a part of the secret of Charlie Lund Nielsen in terms of how he's staying quick. It's also going to help you conserve the tires better. So any reason there is to be smooth, really.
Just looking up the inside if he can, have a little sniff at the position, but it's not quite close enough to send those diving moves. See from that angle, actually, there is some front end damage onto that Mercedes, but it isn't stopping the might of that V8. Going up into where it's ninth place. Well, you see Matthew Forrest and Andy Spicer coming in for his pit stops. Andy Spicer, who leads the way in the AM class. Charlie Nielsen and Remco Barlow carrying on though, Hasse.
Yeah, indeed. Though I suspect this could be, if not the last lap for them, then penultimate one before coming into the pits as well. Of course, there is something to be said for being the optimal strat to sort of stretch it as long as you can. He's given that you started on a full amount of fuel because you'll be doing more time in a lighter car overall. But that's of course only if you have a clear track ahead of you, which both of these drivers do at the moment. Pete Plastow yet again trying to line it up here on Cody Steek. Not finding the run just enough to get the better of the Mercedes. He might be finding it different though here through that middle sector. Now down to Brussels. I think he's got a pretty decent run here, but it's a short straight, Edward. Not quite enough for Pete. Cody Steek goes for the late apex there and gets a good drive out of Brussels and through No Name as well. tell you one thing, Edward. Pete Plastow will be seeing that round of pit stops as a very, very welcome thing in the end, I think.
Through, and nothing coming through from Charlie Nilsson. In terms of pit stops, same for Remco Barlow. Yeah, Cody Steeg's been withstanding that pressure quite a lot for Pete Plastow. His half looks not really serving the purpose or achieving the purpose that they were looking for. Now, though, if there is a chance for Pete Plastow to go for a move, it will be now, as Matthew Forrest has had a big off up at the top of Radion. And that was a hefty hit into the wall.
Yeah, that's going to be...
I think that's suspension damage by the looks of things. Car won't go.
It's a stroke.
Right rear suspension is just completely caved in, not allowing any drive to the rear wheels.
And it was indeed a huge hit. One of those you'll be glad didn't happen in real life, because that's major, of course. That barrier is a relatively soft thing out there.
Also, as well, in GT cars, those side-on impacts aren't exactly where a lot of the protection is. There's a lot of protection at the rear end and at the front end in terms of the crumple zones, but on those sides, in these cars, it's a really nasty one. Thankfully, it was the driver's side that took a whack, because if it was the other way around, that would have been a really, really heavy impact. Of course, it's all virtual, so that's another benefit of the sim, as we see Charlie Nilsson come into the pits from the lead ahead of Remco Barlow, Ivo van der Linden, Timothy van der Broek, and Matthew Terry. We expect Martin de Jong to follow suit, as will Cody Steeg and Pete Plastow.
Yeah, me too.
As they move off at almost exactly the same time, Charlie Nilsson and Remco Barlow. Remco's closed that gap down in the pit stops.
Yeah, quite considerably. It was 3 seconds before the stops. Now it's down to less than a second, and it's a good chance for Remco Barlow to get a run here within the slipstream of the Swede ahead of him. Might be one of those now or never moments. Well, he's not going to be close enough on this lap, I'll tell you, but 0.4 of a second, certainly not those 3 seconds they had coming into it. So he would have been either saving fuel or going for an aggressively short stop here at the end of it. Plastow is in as well as Cody Steeg. Matthew Forrest had that big incident before. And then look at this here, Matt Maddox and Andy Spicer as well. Matt Maddox had a 5-second pit stop, so I don't know how well that's going to work in the long run for Matt Maddox. So did Chris Pio. Maybe a slight bit surprising, but yet again Edward through the middle sector, that Audi stretching the legs indeed, and it's up to around a second again. Remco Barlow might just be seeing the black and green shades of Charlie Nilsson disappearing out in front of him again here. Matthew Forrest out of the race, I'm afraid. No surprise though, given the magnitude of the impact from before. That's going to be a long repair. We're on board here with Pete Plastow trying to get the better of Cody Steek. They've been trading places back and forth. Yeah, just lacking the lacking the grunt here.
The worst points. It's not about the grunt. I think it's just he catches at the worst possible moments. Go into corners like Puon. Can't exactly chuck up the inside. You don't slow down enough. It's not a heavy enough braking zone to do a proper late starting move. Cody's just putting his car exactly in the right position to frustrate Pete Plastow at this moment in time. Maddox comes into the pits, as does Chris Pio. I think it will be Chris Pio that will come in afterwards. Both those two came in on lap 1, and yes, they do.
So that'll, of course, open up some perspectives, or will it? Because Alfredo Tricarici is a long way down on his own, I think. And indeed, it has been good.
As well.
Oh, sorry, Edward. I was just going to say to the comments of Matt on the VRC channel there that it's been good commenting throughout the season as well. And a Merry Christmas to you. Stay safe into the new year, and we will see you there. I'll tell you what I was at a what we call a julefrokost in Danish, a Christmas lunch. It would be called. It's a bit of a weird thing to call it because it the tendency to go on to the very early hours of the morning indeed. And
the best kind of lunches always do.
I'll tell you what, Edward, I'm not 21 anymore. I certainly feel that. It sort of hangs on for a few days in behind. You tend to forget when it's been long enough ago. Oh, and Pete Plastow goes deep there. This time it might be it for Cody Steek. Plastow just got through here, I think. And it's actually been a bit of a back and forth battle again. And unless there'll be a move here from Cody Steek, I think we will just have a moment to relive it. A nice clean battle through there, as well as Cody Steek goes for the run into Brussels. I think Pete Plastow could have been a little less aggressive on the defending there and maybe been better off in the long run, but he managed to come out on top for now, at least. A short moment off track for Charlie Lund-Nielsen. That can't have been too much drama. I think it's just going to be off here in the exit of turn 1. That means that Matt Maddox and Chris Pio at the moment are sort of having their own race there for second place in AM, but they'll be way detached from the leader with that early pit stop of theirs. At least they'll have one another to fight with. It's gonna be a whole lot more fun than just lapping around on your own, basically. As darkness is really beginning to fall. I'll tell you what, I remember a few years ago we did a Nürburgring 24-hour endurance race, but with the sim set to the real date, which was, well, around this time of the year here, late December, which gave us a cruelly short amount of daytime and a brutally long night to have to go through at the Nordschleife. It was and that was something special indeed. Charlie Lund-Nielsen, another fastest lap on the last lap as they went around here. This time though, Remco Barlow able to close in a few tenths. So Charlie Lund-Nielsen not infallible, not untouchable out there, although it has a tendency to look that way. from time to time.
Remco was able to keep up with Charlie Lund-Nielsen up in front, and I mean, I'm not sure if I was going to expect that right at the beginning of tonight when I saw the times that the Swede was setting. Remco's really stepped up his game to a whole new level, and it might also just be down to how kind he's been to the tyres. He's not really been attacking the corners as you've seen the Audi doing. That could be an integral aspect of this race. I mean, they have also changed the way that the tyres wear in iRacing, and that early punishment you put into them can have big knock-on consequences towards the end. Tyres really only built to last 1 hour, one full stint of fuel. Regardless of track condition, there's no real way to double stint them. And in fact as well, actually, tyres are done at the same time as fuel. So maybe we've seen a few drivers take advantage of that, use the sort of shorter fueling to maybe change 1 or 2 of the tyres, most likely the fronts, but that's something that could be coming into this. Potentially Remco Barlow has changed just his front tyres, and that's also why his pace has come on a little bit more in respect to Charlie Lund-Nielsen.
He did do a very short pit stop, so I wonder if you'd be able to do that in 16 seconds, but you probably could. You probably
maybe
could.
Only a couple.
Yeah, a pair of them. But then again, it probably would be worth it. I was just going to say, it probably would be worth the effort of going through it.
I was just going to say, we did see in the virtual bell car first race with the updated tyre rules for these GT3s that me and you've broadcasted on. The tyre change did take around about 30 seconds. The rest of the fuel took a little while longer. So that could be an aspect we haven't properly considered as Remco Barlow does go and set his fastest lap of the race so far. There's Cody Steeg going up the inside just on account of a mistake by Pete Plasdow.
Yeah, Pete going quite a bit deep there. The source. Remco Barlow getting a fine run on the Audi of Charlie Lund-Nielsen though here. Look at this, Edward, Cody Steeg and Pete Plasdow. They're still going at it. That's Plasdow with the inside run into the source, but he overshoots it again. By a fair bit as well. Here's Charlie Lund-Nielsen now with a fairly healthier 0.8 of a second gap. What happened here to Pete Plasdow? Did he get a slowdown, or? Because you gotta wonder. Matt Maddox did go past him here as well.
I think that would give him a slowdown because it counts as him basically going off the track limits, and he basically decides, you can imagine, would probably serve it after going in towards Le Com. You can see that lifting.
Yeah.
Trying to bleed off that time. It's further in front here, Hasse. Remco Barlow is right up the rear end of Charlie Lund-Nielsen. Looks to the inside just for a split second. This move won't be enough to secure the championship for Remco Barlow. It's firmly in the hands of Charlie Nelson, even if he was to finish second. But this is for bragging rights more than anything else.
It certainly is. And all under our noses, Edwards. It's into the final 5 minutes of the race as well, so... If any move were to come through from Remco Barlow, it could just be decisive, but it does look like the Audi is going to be hard to move on here. He's timed it well here. Purple first sector on this lap from Remco Barlow. That could be in the slipstream. That last lap would just... Well, the fastest lap of Barlow, though, just 0.02 of a second off of Charlie Lund-Nielsen. So it's certainly within grasp. What a battle it's been throughout the season. It's been great to follow.
Just dropped off slightly on this lap, but of course if he gets a good run through La Source, he'll be right there coming all the way down the Camel Straight. Nice run as well through the bus stop. This is going to help him out a lot in his charge. It's the rear end of that Audi. Their lap times compare the pair of them. Pretty much nothing in it when you look at them side by side. Let's have a look then. Remco Barlow into the slipstream of Charlie Nelson. He's 6/10 back as they come out of La Source. Just see how strong it is when they come up through Eau Rouge and Raidillon. How close he is going to be when they get to the braking zone at Les Combes. Closing all the more down the Camel Straight. Into the right, move to the left. Now hard on the brakes, that gap comes down to 1/10 per second.
Oh, ho, ho, ho.
As they slam onto the brakes. The sparks bouncing off the bonnet of Remco Barlow. Charlie was really pushing this to the absolute ragged edge, but so is the Dutchman we're on board with. Just has to stick with him through the corners to just be anywhere close enough on the straights. That's his best bet. We will have the white flag next time by. And will Charlie Nelson be able to seal the deal in style with a victory here at Spa? Or will it be a bit of a consolation prize almost for Remco Barlow? His efforts this season would certainly warrant this type of finish, a race victory to cap off the season. Charlie Nelson has just had an absolutely storming lap, and I must say he looks to be in a good position to just bring this one home.
Yeah, but let's see how much Remco Barlow can close in the BMW here. It was 6/10 as they entered the Camel Straight last time around. It's 6/10 now. It looks less as they come into the bus stop, but of course the speed will be closing in the gaps as they slow down. And a new fastest lap indeed there for Charlie Lund-Nielsen at what, 2:16 dead.
Qualifying level pace. I said he was going to be on for a very quick lap time, but I wasn't expecting it to be his best of the race so far. An amazing lap for Charlie Nelson. But now we are onto the white flag. It needs to be an equally special one to keep Remco Barlow at bay. They come all the way down through the Camel Straight. He's safe in towards Les Combes, but he has to have a brilliant middle portion of this lap to keep himself out of the danger zone as they go down towards Blanchimont and the all-important bus stop chicane.
Meanwhile, there's also still a bit of a battle here between Cody Steek and Pete Plastow. We'll just see whoever gets out of that one on top and at the front. But Edward, even after a close fight here between Charlie Lundelson and Remco Barlow, it does look like the Swede's going to take the win here at the final round, as well as the overall championship. And the overall championship actually looking a lot more certain. This win is done for a few laps now on a good late race charge here from Remco Barlow to get this close at the end to a driver that for a good portion of this race did look like he was basically just walking away with it. Plastow's coming ahead of Cody Steek here, as I think Cody Steek might have gone a bit wide onto the final lap. And here it is, it's Charlie Lundelson with the win and the series champion in the pro class ahead of Remco Barlow. What a race they've had, what a season they've both had, and it's been great to see him battling it out. Bit of a donut as Ivo van der Linden takes third place ahead of Timothy van der Broek. Martin de Jong is in fifth place ahead of Matthew Terry. And then Edward, the M class winner, Andy Spicer. I think it'll be his first win of the season here.
Yeah, and it was a very dramatic start to the race. He was, I think, the only AM driver to keep himself out of trouble, but that's what you need to do to win races, is to, well, firstly finish, or to finish first. First you must finish, and Andy Spicer has done a brilliant job there tonight to seal a brilliant victory here at Spa. Pete Plastow has just been able to get the better of Cody Steeg and pulled away a nice healthy advantage. As he comes in towards the bus stop, he will seal now 8th position.
Matt Maddox
into the pits, actually. Cody Steeg goes into the pits. Cody Steeg might be close. Oh no, he just finishes in behind Cody Steeg, almost actually. Got overtaken by Matt Maddox. I'm not sure what happened there.
I think he did get overtaken by Matt Maddox, actually. I'm not quite sure what happened to him. But Matt Maddox somehow getting second with a late charge, to say the very least. And here our AM class champion as well, Alfredo Tricarici, who was just minding his own business, having a lax time, Edward. And
well done, guys. Good driving. Good race.
We'll go to the results here.
Okay.
Oh, that'll be inducing of nausea if we go on board with too many of the donuts while we try to do the results.
Well, I really can't call that start really nice, to be honest.
What a race that was, Hasse, wasn't it? Had absolutely everything from start to finish. See there, like you say, the results up on your screens now. Confirmation that Charlie Lundelson has won the final race of the season and in turn sealed the championship for the Sunday GT Masters Season 4 in some style. He was able to hold off Remco Barlow, who finished half a second back, to withstand a lot of pressure, but withstanded it absolutely brilliantly. Ivo van der Linden finishes almost 20 seconds back from the front pair. Had actually a little bit of a worry as Timothy van der Broek was breathing down his neck in that latter portion, all things considered. And in 5th place, we come to Martin de Jong. Under the radar performance, but still very good 5th place, ahead of Matthew Terry. Then first of the AMs, winning the AM class for tonight, Andy Spicer, the Apex Tech Community driver, performed exemplary and had a no-nonsense race that gave him a brilliant result ahead of Pete Plastow, bouncing back from that early lap 1 incident. Lap 1 turn 1 incident, actually, all things considered, from Matt Maddox. Chris Pio and Cody Stegu drops back a few places at the end there. We'll try and figure out what exactly happened, but he may have had a drive-through penalty just at the last moment. Alfredo Tricarici, you can see in 12th. Mike Frost in 13th. Stephen Orrell 14th, and Baron Glover rounding out the field.
Indeed, Edward, with that we are ready for some interviews as well, and I'll leave it to you to drag in the first gentleman of choice and to have a word with him as well, as I will sort out the visual side of things while you do so. And with that said, let the festivities commence.
Yes, and it is a party atmosphere here as we have the champion in the comms booth, Charlie Nilsson. After a stunning season, your performances have been absolutely amazing, and that was another top draw result to round out what has been an amazing season. Congratulations, firstly. Just talk us through this race in isolation before we get onto the whole season picture.
Oh yeah, thank you guys. What an amazing race with Remco. It was sweating all the way through, but incredibly fun race. Best race all season, this battle with Remco.
Yeah, I mean, you were overtaken at the opening phase of the race, but was it just about trying to buy the time and then try and pick your moment to get back ahead?
Yeah, well, I was kind of expecting him to get me on the first lap, where the BMW has been faster on the straight line all season. But I mean, I would have been happy with second place. It would have gotten me the championship anyway. So, but then the opportunity came and I couldn't resist. I went.
Yeah, I mean, you went for it, but you had a bit of an advantage before the pit stops came, and then all of a sudden, what was your emotions after the pit stops and saw that he was right behind you and all the hard work had just been completely undone in the middle phase of the race?
Yeah, well, I knew he was going to get closer. I saved it with the fuel, so I took quite a lot of fuel, more than I needed to, just to be safe. But I felt I felt in control. Even after the pit stop, I could kind of keep him at bay after turn 1. So yeah, it felt great.
One final thing as well before we talk about the championship as a whole, but obviously we've had a slight change in terms of the build for iRacing, so they've moved over to the 2023 Season 1 build of iRacing with a few changes to the GT3s. How has that been adapting to those sort of different tyres and the different ways the car handles? Have you had to change your setup at all?
Yeah, well, here at Spa, the Audis, they're trying to kill me in all of the high-speed corners. It's right on the limit in the high-speed corner, and so I had to I adjusted the setup to a bit more wing, and then it was still scary in the fast corners, but of course it made it really great in the rest of the corners. But a bit slower on the straights, of course, as we saw.
Yeah, of course. And then we kind of go now look at the bigger picture. The title is yours. You said at the start of the season at Interlagos you were just looking for maybe just a top 3 finish overall in the championship, seeing what you can do, and then maybe think about what might happen next season. But I think you've exceeded your expectations. And to be fair, mine and Hasse's, you've gone and won the entire thing. Did you think it was possible after Interlagos, or where did you really start to believe it was on the cards?
Yeah, yes, both Interlagos and Monza, the first two rounds were pretty horrible for me. So right then I felt like it was going to be hard. Then of course I got second place at Detroit, and the victory, 2 victories in a row at Nürburgring and Fuji, right?
Yeah.
And then I was definitely in contention for the championship, and I kind of felt that it was possible ever since then.
Yeah, I think, like you say, those 2 victories were really good for getting you that momentum. And do you think you might be able to carry all of this forward energy into a second season, a title defense?
Oh, definitely.
Absolutely. Well, we love to hear that, don't we, Hasse? We love to hear a champion that's ready to defend his crown, ready to take on all comers. Thank you very much, Charlie. Before we let you get off and celebrate, is there anybody you'd like to shout out on the broadcast?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you, Ed and Hasse, for an amazing season. Really fun to watch back the broadcasts. I watch every race afterwards. Really good job to you, and thanks to everybody who's been watching me this whole season. All of my friends, my parents, co-workers.
No problem, mate. Well, obviously, thank you, and congratulations. You are the Season 4 champion of the Sunday GT Masters. Congratulations, mate.
Yeah, thank you very much.
There we go, Hasse. That was our champion, newly crowned Charlie Lund-Nielsen, in the booth with us. And you can see we've got plenty other lining up and in waiting. And I see you've brought in someone that I think you'd like to have a quick word with.
Yes, indeed. It's the running-up finisher of not only tonight's race, but the championship as well. Remco Barlow has certainly taken the fight to a strong man throughout the season. Coming into this race, Remco, it must have been a slim bit of hope hanging on to with a 22-point gap to close. How did you approach this race emotionally from that perspective?
Good evening. First of all, of course, congratulations to Charlie for winning the championship. It was a bit of a double feeling coming into this one, of course, because Charlie is really fast and it was quite a big gap. But yeah, you of course have to keep a little bit of faith. So my strategy was go with a very low downforce setup and try to have it under control, and hopefully you can get in front of him and drive away, but it didn't really work out. He was just that bit faster in the higher downforce sections that I just couldn't keep up. So it was a hard one. But we had a good battle. That's good.
You had a very good battle indeed, Remco, and a brilliant one to watch. Did you expect to be able to close back more than 2 seconds on the pit stops, or was that as big a surprise to you as it was to watch to us watching as you came through the pits?
It was a little bit of a surprise that my pit stop was like 2 seconds faster, and I was right behind him after that. But my initial thoughts before the pit stop was saving a little bit of my tires, and maybe I could do something at the end of the race. So I had a little bit better tires, I believe, and I could come up in a second again. But yeah, that was it. He was just that bit faster than me. So.
And coming up short by, well, not a lot, but by a little indeed. At the end of the season, having a season-long battle with a driver as strong as Charlie as well, is there any moments this season where you're thinking, oh, could I just have done something differently there, or is there really none of that?
Well, maybe at Bathurst, I had a crash because someone on the mountain crashed in front of me. So, well, it's racing as well. You can't really do anything about it. But if you score more points in these kind of races, it would have been a little bit closer into this one. So, but that's racing, right? So.
And is it gonna be a different approach from you if you do decide to come back for another season of racing next year?
No, not really. I will just let it go my way and see what happens. I think that's my best approach to do. So, and then I have the most fun of it as well.
Well, indeed. Remco Barlow, congratulations on a strong second place, both tonight, but for the overall championship as well. It's been brilliant to watch throughout. And is there anyone you'd like to give a thanks or a shout out to here at the end of things?
Thank you. Yes, I would like to give a shout out to you two guys. Thank you for a great season as commentators again. And of course the organizers and the race teams, Quanda Racing and WPR Racing, and of course our Dutch SimCraft podcast.
thank you for the kind words, Remco. It's been a pleasure indeed, and I hope to see you around as well for the next one. Final congrats from us here as well, and do enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening.
Thank you, guys, and see you next season.
And we will indeed. That was Remco Barlow. Ed, I think Pete Plastow could as well be a busy man. He's at least not in the waiting room. I don't think we'll be able to drag him in anymore. Oh, that was a shame. I'd like to have had a word with Mr. Plastow at the end of the season here as well. It will always be interesting, but it's been a good season with a lot of good racing and a lot of defining moments throughout. That's been it's been fun to follow over the course of the year. Of course, it's been going on for a fair bit of time indeed. And with a good champion as well at the end of it. Of course, I do understand why Alfredo Tricorici is not around for the interview as well, but our grandest of congratulations to the AM Class champ as well, who does have more than that, just that to celebrate here tonight. On that note, I think it's going to be it from myself and Edward as well. Thank you so much to Advanced Sim Racing for sponsoring this series throughout the year and helping us make it possible. Alongside Virtual Racing Compound, of course, our thanks to the organizing team for having us on. It's been an utmost pleasure, boys, and we will be hoping to see you again for more in the next year. Have a Merry Christmas in a few days' time, and of course a very good New Year as well. Stay safe out there, and until next time, from myself and Ed May here in the comms booth, take care, have fun, and bye-bye.